Good afternoon. My name is Scott Dahl, and welcome to the Digital Transformation Happy Hour. This is the first episode of our second season as we get ready to start the semester here in La Roche in Crans-Montana. And so for our first episode, to me, it was a very logical choice of what to do. We're going to bring back one of our guests, our most popular guests from the first semester in the first season, and address kind of a very big follow-up question that resulted after she was with us. So while Charlotte brings out Mercedes Blanco from BCV Social, in a second we'll have her tell you a little bit more about herself. Let me tell you what she's going to talk about. So we had a lot of discussion about social and the application of social media in hospitality, and the big follow-up question that came was, how can I turn views and activity and ideas into reservations, into money? So no better person to talk to us about that. So hello, Mercedes. First of all, welcome.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks for being back. I'm super excited about this. And as I mentioned, I kind of put her up to doing this. So in a second, I'm just going to get out of the way and let her do her thing. But Mercedes, for those people that didn't see us the first time around, tell us a little bit about yourself and BCV and what you guys do and everything.
Absolutely. So my name is Mercedes Blanco. I'm originally from Spain, and I moved to the US 6 years ago. For the last 4 years, I've been leading sales at BCV, now a Regain company. And what we do is basically social media for the hospitality industry. We are kind of a hybrid between a tech provider and an agency, if you wish, and therefore we do provide a 360 service for hoteliers on social media. And Scott, obviously, the one thing that everybody has been asking us the most lately is, please help us with conversion. So we are here to tell you how we are doing it.
Super cool. I just want to grab one thing that you just mentioned, and that was this sort of, you guys are a hybrid thing. One of the things that we're finding a lot as we move into digital transformation is exactly the need for some of that stuff. The perfect example is revenue management systems. Revenue management systems providers have trouble selling their product by themselves because people don't really get it. They need to find a partner or something like that. And so for you guys to basically match those two functions is really, obviously, it's a competitive advantage. It's pretty cool and very digital transformation future thinking. So, but anyway, so Charlotte, get me out of here so I don't babble any longer. And let's hear what Mercedes has to say about social and conversion.
Well, hi again. Let's talk a little bit about how to increase hotel bookings with Instagram. But before doing so, the best thing that we can start doing is talk a little bit about what is it that has changed. And the most important thing that we've seen is that there is a huge desire for travel. Myself, actually, I'm about to start my first trip back into the States. I'm traveling from Miami here in Florida to Chicago, hopefully next week. So let's hope that everything is good. And I'll tell you, right now in the United States, what we are seeing is that 62% of people is ready to travel domestically, and 44% of the Americans, they feel comfortable about road tripping. Nothing differently in Europe, right? Everybody would want to go in a road trip because they feel safer. And this is about what we need to do in hospitality, is to build that trust with our guests so they come to our hotels. And I'll talk a little bit about that, building that trust through social media as well. Of course, we've seen a lot of family trips, and we are also seeing a lot of people that is considering to travel again. And one thing that we have seen that is very important and very relevant for hoteliers is that the booking window has been shortened hugely, meaning that before, if someone was considering a trip, maybe 1 month, 2 months in advance, that's no longer the case. We've seen a reduced window to up to 2 weeks and even 2 days prior to the trip. So be ready for the last minute, and social media is perfect for that conversation. So looking a little bit, looking ahead of us, while we are seeing that immediate shift on our travelers' behaviors, we are also anticipating longer lead trends to come as pent-up desire for those travels in the next year, in 2021. Travel patterns have become definitely fluid. No longer the holiday season is leading the booking window, right? We were all expecting that different dates, like the 4th of July in the United States, or even the Christmas season in 3 months from us, under normal circumstances, we would have been planning for that, or even for Halloween or the Folks Guy in the UK. We normally knew how our audience was behaving. So it was really easy for us to target and to compensate those lower periods of bookings, right? Right now, it's a little bit more complex, and it truly depends on how we are doing with COVID. And that's related to that trust that we were seeing. Obviously, travelers will seek experiences. They are looking for those COVID-friendly. I am not saying COVID-free because that's an impossible thing to say, but COVID-friendly policies, right? We are seeing a shift in both school and jobs. We are all being more used to working remotely. I actually was working from Spain for 2 months this summer. I was very fortunate to be able to do so. And of course, we are seeing a lot of different milestones postponed. Weddings have been postponed. A lot of events have been postponed. So we will see how those events that have been moved will impact our next year's season. So in social media, we are definitely in our path to recovery. Something that we are seeing, and this is very linked to our conversation today, there has been a 44% increase in conversions through social media. Obviously, I do not have to tell you that 44% is absolutely an amazing number to showcase today. We are also seeing a 28 conversions from a revenue perspective. So we have seen a 28 plus more return on investment than what we were seeing before. And there is also a lift in guest sentiment. This is very important. And you will say, or you will ask, Mercedes, but guest sentiment has nothing to do with conversions. Yes, but remember that social media, the whole purpose of social media is to establish connections. And if you take into consideration that in the whole COVID era, trust is the most important thing above all, having that sentiment, having our guests feel sure and feel that trust and build that credibility will end up bringing more conversions and a better word of mouth, which ultimately will help you with future conversions as well through social media. So let's not forget that social media is about listening and talking to our guests, okay? If you were to remember our first time together when I was talking about social and where we were in the purchase behavior, we are in the upper funnel, not in the lower funnel, right? So social media is there to modify behaviors towards the future. And although we are going to be talking about how to move the upper to the lower funnel portion of the business through social media today, we need to remember that social media needs to remind being part of that upper funnel and being part of that conversations, if that makes sense. So nowadays, I love this phrase here. It is time to pay if we want to play. And that's why, because the algorithms, and I'll talk a little bit about algorithms here shortly, how they have changed. But to give you an idea, without paid advertising, we as Facebook or Instagram users are only seeing between 2 to 3% of the organic content that a hotel or any brand is posting on social media. 2 to 3%. That's peanuts. It's almost nothing. So you need to start putting some dollars behind your social media strategy if you want to succeed. And we need to do so in a way that we are, of course, helping with our awareness, helping with our word of mouth, but of course, helping with our conversions. We need to remember that there are 3 leading platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Those are the most popular ones. We have plus 300 different target categories. We have more than 40 different advertising types, and we have 12 kind of placements. So there is different options. We have a huge palette of colors in front of us, so we can paint whatever we want. And we need to be an expert painter if we want to succeed in social media. So let's remember that it's time to pay if we want to play. So algorithm. What? What is that? Well, that's basically something that Facebook built, and you will keep hearing me saying Facebook, but when I say Facebook, I am talking about the whole company, not just the platform Facebook. I'm talking about Instagram and even WhatsApp as well. But Facebook built an algorithm that it's basically a math behind the tech, that it's telling the technology what kind of content is going to be put in front of a Facebook or an Instagram user. I'm not sure if you watch this popular documentary in Netflix. It's called The Social Dilemma. That is telling you a little bit about how that algorithm works. So basically, what we as a provider for our hoteliers, we are doing, we are basically auctioning to place the best advertising in front of our best customer or future customer. So we as a company are doing it at the same time that a lot of different companies in the world, and we want to win the best customer for us. It's about knowing what color to choose when we are painting something. So it's exactly the same. We have the palette of colors, we have all of the targeting options. We need to know and become masters of it, so we know how to better do our job. So basically, Facebook algorithm will determine which ad to show in which moment of the day and to whom. And the way they do that is to the person or to the company that is bidding the best, that is giving the best value. And there are three major factors to consider that. One is the bid itself, two is the estimated action rates, and three is the ad quality. There are some guidelines that we need to take into consideration about photo quality, video quality, length, text on top of our pictures. All of that will affect how we are being more competitive when we are bidding. So the algorithm is what is going to help us being successful or not. Obviously, we could not talk about algorithm without talking about pixel. And the reason why is because the pixel is what it will allow us to actually measure our conversions. Basically, it's a revenue tracking solution for us. And for those who are unfamiliar with what a pixel is, it's basically a code. It's another formula on the internet. It's a piece of code that is towards the back end of a website, and it's basically tracking what has been your behavior to get into that website. For instance, if I have here my Instagram account and I am seeing an Instagram story ad and I click to that ad and that takes me to somewhere else where I can actually select what I want, do a little bit more of digging and even purchase something. When I am here in this other portion of the equation, there is some coding between the two, telling the publisher, telling me how I got there. Why? Because imagine if I am buying something now, we need to know what made me go there and purchase, right? Otherwise, it would be really hard for us to identify if I am converting because my husband told me so, because I saw a placement on TV, because I click on a post on Instagram. And sometimes there is a mix of combination of all of those things before I convert. But we need to be able to track all of that. So basically, the pixel is the best way for us to establish a return on the investment. So there are a few things that we need to remember when we are talking about pixel, and is that basically it allows us to even retarget in the future. So it's giving us the option to measure results. It's giving us the option to optimize, to do better, and it's actually giving us the opportunity to even improve the quality of those audiences that we are creating. I see a question here in the chat from Anish, and it says, with regards to paid content, it is not viewed with suspicion versus organic. Also, with limited marketing dollars across hotels currently, how would you suggest overcoming that challenge? That's a very, very good question. And I'll tell you, paid media is definitely not perceived with suspicion if you are doing it right. Okay, and how we are doing it right, I cannot define or build a paid media example saying, hey, book now, book now, book now. That's annoying. That's not the kind of content that I want to see, right? But if I've been searching for a future weekend getaway within a driving distance from my home, and I see an advertisement saying, looking for the best destinations for a road trip in Florida, we are the best option, right? Something that is customized to my tailored needs, and that's a paid media solution for me. I do not see that as a bad thing. On the contrary, I love that they get to know me so good. That's actually why Facebook and Instagram, they've been so great. I keep hearing people saying things like, I love my social media platforms because they know me so well that all of the content that I see is relevant to me. And the content that I see is not the content that you see or that my other friend sees or that my colleague sees, right? We all see different content in social media. That's the beauty of it. That's the amazing thing about social media, right? So that's the first thing, answering to your question. No, people do not get intimidated by paid media. On the contrary, if we are doing the targeting and the copy and the content in the right way, they are appreciating that level of detail and that level of customization. And two, good news for you, social media is very cheap. It's not like TV. It's not like a newspaper. You do not need to spend thousands of dollars to get a result. You can try with $200, $300 on a campaign and see how you are doing. And you can tweak it to allocate to your current needs. So the greatest thing about social media also is that you will be able to track with the pixel all of the conversions. So if you are investing, let's say $200, $500 a month, right? But you are getting $2,000 in booking, isn't that worth it? You can prove your success. So it will be very easy for you to convince your owners or your management group on how to do this, right? Actually, that's been something that we've been seeing a lot lately. Help me prove the value of social media. And I was always very scared of that question because social media, it's great for paid, but we need to remember that social media is there to listen as well. Okay, I will keep reinforcing that message because it's very important that we continue to do so. So, Anis, I hope that answered your question. And if not, please feel free to continue engaging on the chat. Okay, so targeting options, that's the secret recipe for success. If you do not know the targeting options by heart, if you do not know how to put your ad in front of the right people, you are not there to succeed. This is the key to everything, okay? So we need to know that there are basically 3 different audiences within Facebook. And again, remember, Facebook covers Instagram as well, right? Core audiences, custom audiences, or lookalike audiences, my favorites, and everyone's favorites, I believe. So core audiences are the ones that you are building by choosing every detail, by choosing location. Maybe we want to target people within a particular country or region or city or zip code, if you wish, because maybe, especially with COVID times, maybe we know that within California, the people in San Francisco is so desperate to get out that because everything is locked down, that we can target those people. If I have a beautiful resort in, I don't know, close to Sacramento or close to Yosemite National Park, because it's a few hours away from the city, right? If we are talking about Europe, Madrid has been recently locked down again. They can no longer exit the region of Madrid, although I believe that regulation was overruled today. But there is no way right now. They have a holiday ahead this weekend. There is a long weekend in Spain. But if I have a beautiful property in the Pyrenees in Andorra, I'm not targeting people from Madrid because they can no longer travel, right? So I need to adjust my targeting options, taking into consideration everything that's happening with COVID. Also demographics. What's the age? What's the gender? What's the kind of relationship status that I'm interested in? I'm interested in singles. I'm interested in families. What's the job title? I'm looking for a certain level of people. What's the best interest? Am I interested in luxury travel? I'm interested in fashion. I'm interested in history. Something in my own particular case that I love about social media is that they know that I'm passionate about history, and I have I find myself obsessed reading history articles all the time because they keep giving me that kind of content that I love, right? And sometimes I even choose my trips depending on what part of the history I'm researching at that time, right? And connections. Maybe we want to use people that is using Facebook, or that is using Instagram, or that attended that event, so we can basically build our own audience. Okay, that's one way of doing it. And that's called a core audience. Another way of doing it is by creating a custom audience. And we can use that with the data that we already have. We should know who's our client, right? We should have a database from our PMS, from our CRM, whatever it is. We should have a distribution list. Actually, we should have several distribution lists that have been targeted for different purposes, right? So we can take that list and use it for our targeting efforts on social media, right? So imagine past guests, we can track them, we can target them, or people that has been a loyal guest of our property, we can target them again, so we can continue to build that trust, that relationship with them. And again, I mentioned that the lookalike audiences are my favorite, because if we know who our existing customer is, if I know that my persona is a single successful person over 45 years, born and raised in, I don't know, Ukraine, with X level of education, X level of interest, whatever. If I know that's my ideal persona, if I know that he's been a loyal guest and he's been with me 2 to 3 times during COVID for weekend getaways, or even to work remotely, because we've seen a peak on interest on basically building an office in a hotel, we can use that persona and tell Facebook or Instagram, I want to find people like him. And that's amazing, because Facebook will find those people for me, and now I can target those people. That's what we call a lookalike audience. We have identified who our buyer is, and we replicate that so we can find different people among social media. Any questions about targeting? If there are, please place them on the chat. So let's talk about advertising placements. Obviously, we have different ways of building an ad. We can use Facebook, we can use Instagram, we can use Instagram stories, we can use the feed, we can use the messenger, we can use photo, we can use video, and we need to understand what kind of ads creatively we can build. And here I try to identify the most common or the most popular ones, okay? We have single image. That's very easy. It's clean, it's simple, it's basically one picture with copy. Careful, do not overwrite the copy on top of the picture. Do the copy somewhere else, because otherwise the algorithm will potentially affect negatively your performance, okay? Carousel, that's kind of a carousel. It's moving, it's sliding away. It's showcasing either 10 image or 10 videos in a single ad. So you see something and you can keep going to see different content within the same ad. That's very powerful when we need to highlight different products or different sub-products. Imagine that you are a big mountain resort that is very famous because of the ski season, but obviously you have other offerings. You have the spa, you have the pool, you have the event space, you have the library, you have the horse riding. Actually, something that we have seen this past holiday season, the summer season, instead of seeing a huge increase in beach resort destination, we've seen an increase in mountain destination because people wanted to get away and far away from big cities and big conglomerations, right? Slideshow, that's a video-like ad made with photo. It's kind of similar to what I mentioned before, the carousel, but instead of you sliding, it's just one single piece of video that it's showing and it's playing on its own with different images. It's not like a video, okay? It's kind of a PowerPoint presentation, if you wish, with automated animation, right? Then video creation kit, that's an option that Facebook actually gives you. Sometimes it's, and Anis, that's for you, that's perceived as too salesy because it's Facebook building that video for you. So it's not as natural as a video that you would produce. If you produce your own video, which is the next category, you will be able to tell the story, right? And if you want to tell a better story, use Instagram stories. That's been the most popular thing among 2019 and 2020. Is customizable, is tells about the experience. It allows people to really get in. It allows that conversation. It's a full screen experience, and that's very important. And last but not least, we can talk about instant experience with both collection and ads, and Canva. So let me play this so you will see the difference between a collection okay, and Canvas. So as you can see, both are full screen, both are super powerful tools, and I would encourage you to invest into paid media, not just with single image, but with histories and with collection and Canvas. Obviously, if we choose to go that direction with the stories or with the instant experience, we would need to build graphic design and graphic solutions and post-production. So it's a little bit more complex than just one photo, but the performance is just absolutely superb, okay? Okay, so now that the introduction it's been made, we've been walking you through paid media, what is it that we've seen, how we can target, what the algorithm is, what a pixel is, how it works, and also the different targeting options that we have in front of us. It's time for us to talk about Instagram. Okay, so some Insta stats for 2020. We are seeing that at least 200 million Instagram users are visiting at least one business profile every day. So definitely the opportunity exists for you to be one of that business companies, okay? Then we are seeing that 1/3 of the most viewed stories on Instagram are from business. So again, people, they love to feel that experience. And remember that through Instagram in particularly, we are already following a lot of those companies. If I love to travel, it's more likely that I follow destinations, hotels, or different things that are of my interest, right? So I do want to be receiving that content. And if I am receiving a similar content that it's been paid, I am more likely to click on it, okay? 849 million Instagram's potential advertising reach, okay? And 63% of Instagram users log into the platform at least once per day. So even if we like it or not, we are Insta obsessed. We are Insta addicts, I should say. Obviously, I want to again tell you about the importance of the Facebook/Instagram pixel. Remember that Facebook covers it all. So we can do a better work. It is very important that once the pixel is installed of the booking engine, you can optimize the conversions, right? You can take a look into how you are doing. And another important piece that I didn't mention before is that the pixel, it's allowing you to see the attribution during 28 days. What does that mean? That you have a window for almost a month to see how you are performing, how your user is behaving, and it's allowing you to perform better. So basically, when we were testing our pixels and the trends and everything in 2019, we realized that when we were remarketing custom audiences on Instagram campaigns, we duplicated the room bookings at half of the cost when you were comparing that to interest traveler audiences. So it's very important how remarketing through the pixel with the audiences that we already had, it allows us to increase our return on the investment and double our conversions. So here is the importance of the pixel. It's allowing you, it's giving you knowledge. And data is knowledge. And if you have the power of the data and the power of the knowledge, you will be able to do a much better work, right? More consideration about the pixel. If a pixel is not possible on your website, and the reason why I'm saying this is because some companies, some branded hotels do not allow third parties to implement a pixel on their booking engine. So if you are a branded hotel, it's more likely that you will have to work with your corporate team and they will be the only ones with access to the pixel, or they won't give you access to a pixel so you can optimize it yourself. Obviously, do not panic. We have some options for you. Ideally, we would want to fight for that pixel, but if not, you can utilize Instagram engagement custom audiences and retarget highly qualified users who recently viewed or visited your profile. You can leverage dynamic mobile-only creative, such as the instant experience that we were showing you before, collection ads, and they've been proved to be a top revenue driver. So you can definitely start and try those if you do not have the pixel, okay? So let me give you what a targeted social advertising example for a luxury brand looks like. And again, this goes to that people that is not a believer in the power of returning bookings through social media. Look at this chart. If I am spending $16, I can potentially have a revenue over $3,000. Of course, this is not happening overnight. We need to understand our audience. We need to understand who our tone of voice is, who our brand is, what kind of identity we want to show, who we are. We need to have a really strong marketing strategy in place. We need to fully know our target, our audience. But if we know all of that, the success recipe is here. This is the secret recipe. This is the secret sauce. Social media. It will allow you to have an incredibly performance on conversions. So in BCB's hands, just to give you an idea, in one single day spent, which is basically, in this case, $16, we had a huge return of investment. You saw a 22,000% conversion. So that's a doubling engagement. We've seen an increase on engagement by 108%. That's huge. Obviously, we as a company, we know, we live, we breathe, we understand social media for hospitality. This is all we do. So I'm not going to say that we are the best, because there are some other people out there that are doing an incredible work, both in-house and not in-house, but we've been one of the best. We are one of the best in social media and performance, and our numbers speak for themselves. So let me bring you some case studies so you can see how some real examples have performed. This is Virgin Hotels. We basically were trying to promote the opening for a new property. In this particular case was the location, the property that they were opening in San Francisco. And we tried an Instagram story that was dynamic, that was using great imaginary and copy. This is very important. Something that I keep hearing about social media is, oh, do not worry. My daughter, my son, my friend has a kid that loves social media, that is always posting on Instagram. Careful. I always tend to say this. The fact that you are a social media user doesn't mean that you know how to navigate a business account on social media. Being able to build a powerful and impactful copy is key. So you need to understand how keywords, how hashtags, how the strategy looks like. What is your peak season, your low season, your strengths and weaknesses as a business. You need to know all of that if you really want to succeed, right? So in this particular case, the brand allow us to place the pixel on the website. So we were able to leverage that conversion objective and that remarketing. So with only spending $110 and being live for less than a quarter, the Instagram story ad drove 6 total room bookings. Maybe 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, I'm spending $100. What do you expect, to have millions, right? But with 120, I am giving the property 6 rooms, which is up to between $2,000 to $3,000 in revenue for the property. If that's not real return on investment, what's it, right? Then I want you to be creative. This is a case study for another property of ours. This is Fontainebleau in Miami Beach. This is one of the worldwide most famous resorts, and we were doing an Instagram story. And let me play this so you can see what we built for them. Okay, maybe this is not so sexy now because it's only, what day is today? It's October the 8th. By the way, today is the birthday of one of my best friends, so I will have to call her later. But today is October the 8th. We have the summer just been finished a month ago, so we are not freezing to death in Switzerland or in Chicago or in any other cold winter countries, right? But imagine that we are in the middle of December. We are in the middle of a snowstorm. We have no sunlight. We are lacking vitamin D, and we are seeing this kind of content. Meanwhile, you're freezing today to death. Here in Miami, we are enjoying a wonderful beach day. This is the purpose of this paid media campaign. We produce high quality, eye-catching content that was meant to reach those people in those places with cold weather. Obviously, we were using an attractive, short, sexy copy. And basically, to tell you some of the results, the Instagram story ad made up to the 65% of the total Instagram bookings of the quarter for this particular quarter. We received 50 versus 1 in the total booking revenue and over 59,000 total amount in dollars in revenue. The campaign generated 1,402 total clicks, over 500,000 impressions, and 184,000 reach. So this was definitely a case study. There you are. Now it was much more fluid. Okay, so another example for you, and I believe that this is my last case study. This is another case study using video. In this case was for a 10th anniversary for the Four Seasons in Bora Bora. Basically, we executed some Instagram story ads. I personally love the Instagram stories and how they perform. So that's why I'm bringing you some of those as an example. And basically, you have the results here on impressions, on website clicks, and in room reservations. But imagine, if I am spending hundreds or maybe $1,000, $2,000, and I am bringing the property up to 64 room reservations, bookings, and an estimated revenue of plus 300,000, that's definitely a huge, it's having a huge impact on the return on the investment. So I am hopeful that for all of those who were a little bit more skeptic of the power of how to drive conversions through paid media in social, that I was able to change your mind today. But remember, you won't be able to do this without understanding the algorithm, implement a pixel, and fully become the master painter of all of the different targeting options that social media is giving you. So now I'm opening for questions.
Okay, Mercedes, if you want, go ahead and there you go. Get rid of that slide. So first of all, I wrote a tremendous number of notes. Thank you very much. At one point, I was glad you showed the first little social media video because I was afraid you might run out of breath at some point. And all I could think of, the term started going through my head: tsunami of social media wisdom. But absolutely amazing amount of information. So thank you. I wrote down a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. First of all, I think interestingly, the Pixel technology has been around for a little while, but finally getting enough traction to be able to be used, and people are starting to understand it. And I think you mentioned you have to understand how to work that. But what's cool about it really is this doesn't require a whole technology stack to be able to get involved in understanding how that all works, right? As long as you have access to the site, or someone that knows how to do that has access to the site, then they can make it happen, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very, very easy to track and very easy to implement. Honestly, the way that I used to explain how a cookie or a pixel works, it's very easy. It's like me having a tag, something on my shoulder that is telling people, hey, I'm here having coffee, I'm here with my friends at the park, I'm here working out at my gym, right? It's basically a code that it's following you in every single step of the way. So if, for instance, if you Google something, imagine that right now you Google something very common, best restaurants location in Miami, or best brunch in Miami. This is where I'm at, right? And I happen to click into a TripAdvisor link, which is very common. If you go to the URL and you see the full address that you have on the search bar, you will see that instead of being tripadvisor.com/name of the restaurant, there is always a big portion of code and after it. And what that is telling the restaurant and TripAdvisor is that I am arriving to that end because I Google it, right? Mm-hmm. Next time that you are redirected somewhere else, please take a look into the URL, because it will tell you, you won't understand the code, but it's basically telling you.
You'll see a lot of junk that you can't imagine why it would be there for any other reason, which is just as good as understanding the code, honestly. Yeah, you can It's usually got a lot of percentage signs and punctuation and all kinds of crazy stuff in it when you go back.
All you need to know to do is talk to whoever built your website, whoever is in charge of your website. They should be able to provide you a pixel so you can be able to leverage the power of it and just get the insights coming from it. It's very easy, it's no-brainer, and the results will speak for themselves.
I mean, it's really fascinating, right, that now you have full attribution, basically. So now you can understand that when I spend money, here's what my return was. And I think it's really important to point out to people the funnel, and as we think of it as a funnel, but it's probably more like a funnel that you can barely see any kind of slope. And I would go to your Four Seasons Bora Bora example, right? For a successful campaign with a giant return on investment, 6.3 million impressions resulted in 64 reservations. So it's really important for people to understand. I think if you just kind of tickle it a little bit, you're not going to have any kind of an understanding of really what you could potentially do. It takes, I mean, if you had only 50,000 impressions, based on that math, you might or might not get a reservation with 50,000 impressions. So it's important to really understand how it all works. But the fact that you can now attribute it, you're otherwise you used to have to dig around and try and find some reason to be able to claim credit for those reservations so that you could talk about the return on investment. Talk a little bit about the production of some of the more sophisticated pieces. What I kind of did the math and it surprised me. There was a 50-to-1 return on investment of one, I think, of the Fountain Blue one. So I'm a math guy. I did the math. But like some of the really nice stuff with actual, with the bookable pieces on it, what does that cost to produce typically?
It really depends on what pieces you currently have, because I always recommend to leverage the content that you've already produced, right? If you've already built video for a promotional reel, in social media, you do not need a minute and a half or 3 minutes. Actually, don't do it. Stop doing it.
You're right. Yeah,
right? Exactly. But if you have already if you have already developed that kind of content, you can go back at it, review it, and just, if you remember the Fontainebleau story that I was showing you, it was basically nothing. I mean, it was a floating,
Yeah.
it
It was yellow. That's what I remember.
it was a floating pineapple with somebody in it, right? That's it. But it was... all you need is that, right? If you have something that you can make it sexy, appealing, dynamic, you can just take it. I mean, there is a lot that you can do on production, right? And if you have already developed content, wonderful. If you haven't, you do not need to bring in a huge photographer team to develop social media content pieces. I mean, I have the latest iPhone. This beauty takes video that, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. Exactly. And with Instagram, I can build a lot of different pieces, and I can create something that is dynamic, that it looks professionally done. Important. Some people tend to think that because I am doing an Instagram story, I am doing it live and it's content that I am taking today. That's not true. Okay. Most of the Instagram stories that you see on your feed, they were taken days, months, weeks ago. And the companies, or even the professional influencers, they keep all of that. They produce that, and then they schedule that to go live. I mean, because it's happening in real time in our end, doesn't mean that it's happening in real time on the property end. So you can plan for it. You can develop a bunch of different graphic design portions. You can become as creative, as crazy as you want, and just start trying how they are performing during different periods of time.
Mm-hmm. Cool. There's just one other thing that I want to mention, and it was very early in what you were talking about, and that was sentiment. And it really struck me. It's very interesting that sentiment is moving up like that, but it's very, you made the connection. Let me make sure I'm going to say it correctly. You know, that sentiment would, that there was kind of a not so direct connection, but some connection to conversion. And I find it really interesting. And I think it makes me think about a little bit, if we get kind of over in a different part of really, user generated content, not so much real social media, but think about TripAdvisor and think about the impact of good TripAdvisor ratings versus not so good TripAdvisor ratings on online bookings. It seems almost a little bit of a correlation to social media, kind of with, if people are seeing you better than all of this, they're more likely to like your story because they have a good feeling about you to start with, I guess. So.
Definitely agree. And I will say something else about reviews platforms or TripAdvisor, which I heavily use. The beauty of social media and the power of those communications happening in real time is that social media is giving you the opportunity to talk to your guest meanwhile they are still guests. With TripAdvisor, it's always post-stay. Right? When you are home, you are reviewing your experience. But if I, as a user, I'm posting something on my Instagram now, why don't you, as a property, listen to what your guests are saying? If you are listening to the complaints or the compliments that people is giving to your front desk team, why don't you have a team that is actively monitoring everything that people is posting in social media? And remember, I said this last time that we connected, 3 out of 4 guests is gonna be posting something during their stay. So 75% of your guests are posting about you. If you are listening to them, you can either enhance their experience, you can even bring the conversation offline, or you can even be able to tweak the experience if for some reason they are not happy with you. If you are leveraging the power of the conversations in real time, you will have advocates. All of them will become into advocates, so they all will help with your online reputation on TripAdvisor after they are gone. Because if you make me feel special, there is no way that I'm not going to go to TripAdvisor afterwards to give you an amazing review and ultimately to help you with conversions. So there is a lot that it's, because today we wanted to talk about paid media and how we can bring direct bookings in the short term I wanted to focus in the paid media effort, in the short term, right? But we need to understand all of the importance that social media is having during the whole purchase behavior channel.
Yeah, I think it's funny you bring that up. I have had a couple of friends share with me where they posted sort of negative stuff on social media. But because of the way they tagged it, it was seen by people, and they were sharing with me not from the negative and not about the post, but actually as stories of amazing recovery that businesses did because they were paying a little bit of attention to what was being said to them. And in one case, invited the person to take the conversation offline and did a very good job. In one case, kept the conversation online and did a very good job with it, and which I thought was quite adventurous at a minimum, right? I mean, it's you and I talking in the lobby is one thing, but if we're going to talk in front of 3 million of our closest friends, I think that's a very different customer complaint resolution. But it was really kind of a cool trail that they went through, and you could kind of, when you read it, you can go, okay, that's. It was very process driven. It wasn't the person was amazing and it'll never be done again. It was a service recovery, but it was done publicly in social media. It was kind of cool. So when you had mentioned that, it made me think of that as much more of a strategy than just something that happened to happen. Yeah. So we're kind of run up against our time. And then there's actually one question that maybe you can, I'm trying to think of the best way. There's someone that's asking a personal question of you in the chat that we can maybe get that person to send an email to us, and we can connect you via email. Or what I would say is you can also, I know you can find Mercedes on LinkedIn, so that would be a good way to send her an email.
Well, I will say, if anybody's interested in continuing the conversation with me online and offline, please feel free to find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure. She's actually, you were actually the host of my first virtual happy hour when COVID first happened. So you're an innovator in more than one way. But we're kind of up against our time. We typically try to finish up about now. But any sort of magical single sentence of wisdom to kind of stick on the end, do you think? Or
I will say only one thing. In a post-COVID world, you have to listen. And you have to reach to your audience. For the first time in the last 10 years, the travelers are not coming to us. We have to go and look after them, right? So the best way for us to do so is to listen to the people that is already there, that is already talking about traveling, and use your targeting capabilities to connect with them. Go after them, but you need to define your strategy and understand who that kind of traveler is the ideal persona for you. And then the social media will do the rest for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that right now when everyone's concerned about recovery and when is the market going to come back, what I would offer to you is the market's going to come back hotel by hotel. And those hotels that pay better attention are going to get the first travelers to come back, and they're going to get more of them. So I think you nailed it in one sentence. Good job. You always deliver. So thank you very much again, Mercedes. Thanks a bunch. Really, really fantastic topic for us. And I love the way you spoke about it. Obviously she mentioned, check her out on LinkedIn, and I would encourage you to do that. And thank you very much. And thanks everybody for being here. We're off to a new semester. Students come back on Monday, back in the classroom on Tuesday. So here we go. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.